In this video, I'm going to work on the get user details test method. And if I look at the Postman HTTP client and the request that I used to send to get user details, I had to send the request to the /users root resource class, specifying the user ID, the details of which I want to return. And then I had to provide a couple of headers. The first one is authorization header containing the JSON web token. And another one is accept HTTP headers to specify the content type of the resource representation I want to get back. So I want to get back representation in JSON format. Okay, so let's create this in Rest Assured. So I have the test user login and I can reuse it to quickly create another test method. I'll paste it here. So this is going to be method B, and this method will be to test get user details. And let me actually delete everything from here. I will one more time do it from the very beginning, and then I can reuse some of the code snippets to copy and paste so that the video is much shorter. So I'll start with creating the request, and I will start with given, and I will set accept header. Accept is going to be JSON. We already have the value of application JSON taken to the class level here, JSON, application JSON, and I will simply reuse it here. Okay, so given that this HTTP request contains the accept header, and then when HTTP get request is sent, so I will use get instead of post, and I will need to provide a URL. So I'll just copy this one, context path plus users, and paste it here like this. But now here, instead of the login, we need to provide user ID. Remember, if I switch back to my Postman, the URL contains user ID right after the /users. This is the public user ID, the details of which I want to return. So I'll switch back to my Spring Tool Suite, and if I look at the previous method where we were testing user login, when user logged in from the response headers, we have read authorization header and the user ID. So what I can do, I can take these values to the class level and then reuse them in my following test methods. So I will copy these two and bring them up to the class level, remove the values, and I will make them static. Private static, and this one will be static as well, like this. So now I will remove the data type here and remove data type here. And now when test user login method runs, my class level fields authorization header and user ID will be initialized to the values I read from the response header in test user login method, and then I can use them in my test get user details method. So the user ID we now have, and we can start assuming that. Then let's assume that the response contains a status code which is 200. So we'll choose status code is 200, and then I will assert that the content type is also JSON. And then I can extract the entire response like this and assign the entire response to a new object of response data type like this. Our HTTP GET request to read the user details will also need to contain the authorization header, and we can include additional headers with the header function. And I'll provide authorization as a header. Let me switch to a Postman, and so that I don't make a typo, I'll copy it and paste it here. And then I'll provide the value of this authorization header, and I already have it in my login method, the test user login. So I'll take it and paste it here like this. Let me format it a little bit. Okay, so now when I have the request ready and the response received and assigned to my response object, I can start asserting for other things, like for example, I will parse a JSON response and I will get user ID from it. So I'll create a new string variable, and that will be user public ID. I will use response object, and I will use JSON path to access user public ID JSON key. So I'll get a string from that JSON document, and the user ID is stored on the user ID. Okay, and then I can also assert that this JSON response contains email address. So I will read email address, user email equals response JSON path get string, and that will be email. And we can assert that these values are not null. So I will use assert not null, and then I will provide user public ID, and I'm asserting that email address is also not null.